Welcome back to the One-Solved Mystery Channel's exclusive series, JonBenet's Web Truths. On tonight's episode, titled M'Linda's Defamatory Sibling Rivalry, we get into more detail regarding M'Linda Kula's horrific accusation against her own baby brother, which we briefly touched on after a recent appearance on what I call the Blasphemy Blue Line Wombat Specimen YouTube channel that aired on YouTube on January 22nd of this year, discussing the tragic unaliving of her parents, Dorothy and Walter Babich, inspiring me to release the following short. JonBenet, Suspect-Conspiracist, and all-around Wack-A-Doo, M'Linda Kula showcases yet another case she is unwantingly working on.
The double homicide of Walter and Dorothy Babich in Cook County, Illinois.
But why is she working on this case also?
Now I'm telling you what I never tell. My mother is Dorothy Babich. My father is Walter Babich Sr. My baby brother is Daniel Babich.
And what did your baby brother do for a living?
Then, the Lyons, Illinois police chief in Cook County, Illinois.
So who does M'Linda think is responsible for this heinous act?
My baby brother, who was a police chief.
But I guess you know the next question.
Okay, so why was Daniel Babich so filled with rage that he did this despicable attack against our parents, mother and father?
That's a good question. So why?
It's because at some point he wanted a loan.
So let me get this straight. An Illinois chief of police couldn't get a loan because he needed a cosign. His folks weren't willing to, so he offed him? Right. Now that covered the basic gist of her theory, but she has been talking about this for quite a long time, as is evident from this appearance she made on the Opperman Report back in 2014, where she is still discussing her falsely accused JonBenet suspect Bill Ramsey, and how he ties in with her more than likely falsely accused baby brother Daniel Babich. Without further ado, though, she states,
they need to look at the whole picture, and the last reported address was 63 Everett Street. But my mother and father, when they were killed, my mother was stabbed 63 times. And who had the information of Bill Ramsey's last address? My youngest brother. And on that issue, the link and what happened to Walter and Dorothy Babich Sr. can be found on JonBenet's
Okay, that is pretty bad. She does not even know her own website is a .net, not a .com webpage. But getting back to M'Linda, she claims,
and everybody, once they read both stories, will see the link.
Yeah, we didn't get into that at all. We should probably do a part 2 show, maybe next week or on the same time, or whenever it's convenient for you. We can get into the whole story about your parents. That's your parents that were stabbed?
My mother was stabbed 63 times. My father was shot in the abdomen with a full-barrel shotgun twice. And the police in in Lyons, Illinois, who are associated with Police Chief Daniel Babich, said that my father, 75 years old, missing his right leg, rheumatoid arthritis in both his hands, stabbed my mother 63 times and then shot himself twice in the abdomen with a full-barrel shotgun. Do you think either are possible when he had rheumatoid arthritis in both hands?
When did that happen? That happened
8 years ago, October 22nd, 8 years ago.
So when you were well into this investigation, making a big stink about all this, that's when this happened?
Yes.
Now, is there any way for this guy, Bill Ramsey, to have made it over to Chicago around that time and pull this off?
Absolutely not. The murderer wanted me to think Bill Ramsey did it. The murderer wanted me to think that because of the 63 stab wounds. That's overkill on such a level that is unspeakable.
Yeah, that's true, too. I'm really sorry to hear about that. That's just horrific. I mean, you have my prayers.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that, if you're lost there. But now, who do you think, it was someone connected, though, to this Bill Ramsey?
Ask me that again, please.
The killer of your parents, you believe, is someone connected to Bill Ramsey?
I just think that he's something just as evil as Bill Ramsey, who thought that I would assume,
right.
This is his mistake, I don't assume anything, that because it was 63 stab wounds, it would be Bill Ramsey sending me a message. It's the very thing that you said. Would he travel to Illinois to stab my mother 63 times? That was his last reported address, 63 Everett Street. So therefore, the person who actually did the murder, who's very smart, very cunning, went to FBI school, went to police training school, would think that I was stupid enough to believe 63, Bill Ramsey's address is 63 Everett Street, at least the last reported one, and so therefore Bill Ramsey did this to my mother and father. No. The person who had my father's gun collection in his possession months before they were murdered, who had a key to the house, that's the person who murdered my mother and father, that person. But because of his police training, he knew how to make a murder scene, which was caused by, let's say, law enforcement, look like a break-in.
Gotcha. So okay, and so that it's a totally separate crime. Is not connected to Bill Ramsey, but you pretty much know who you think did it, and his whole thing was to cover it and pin it on Bill Ramsey.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha. But it's just kind of a tragic, I guess you might call it a coincidence that you're investigating one murderer, and then this other murderer enters your life. Oy, okay.
Okay, is right. Keeping up with M'Linda's crazy tales is exhausting and overwhelming, but looking further into the unfortunate passing of her parents, I found this Chicago Tribune article titled Murder, Suicide, Eyed, and Deaths of Couple, which was written just 2 days after their bodies were discovered, and states, police are investigating the apparent murder-suicide of an elderly McCook couple who were the parents of the police chief of the neighboring Lyons, authorities said. They continue, Walter Babich and his wife Dorothy, both 75, were found dead Sunday afternoon in their tan brick home in the 4900 block of Riverside Drive in McCook. McCook police said today that their preliminary investigation shows Walter Babich stabbed his wife multiple times and then took his own life with a shotgun between Friday and Sunday. They state, investigators were trying to determine the motive behind the deaths. A Lyons Police Department dispatcher said Monday that Chief Dan Babich had not issued a statement, adding it was too soon and that Babich joined the Lyons Department in 1982 and has been chief since 2001. Now, while this article does continue on, it basically states it is thought that it was a murder-suicide. But we really need to move over to the Real Cuff Radio YouTube channel, where M'Linda Kula had made an appearance on March the 25th of 2020, discussing her falsely accused suspect William Rohn, aka M'Linda's Bill Ramsey. However, there was supposed to be a follow-up, which I could not find on YouTube. Fortunately, though, I found it on this Himalaya.com webpage, dated May the 9th of 2020, where she is more blatantly speaking of her parents' tragedy and states,
Here's my mother and father, murdered at the hands of my baby brother, the Lyons, Illinois police chief, and justice needs to be served. And with my last breath, justice will be served.
Boy, she's dramatic. But let's try to make sense of her tall tales as she once again regurgitates her same old story, stating,
Do you remember when we were talking about the JonBenet case and I said that the last reported address to Daniel Babich, my youngest brother, for my safety's sake, was 63 Everett Street?
Yes. You called them and told them that you had been being harassed, and this is where this guy lived.
Daniel thinks he's so smart. Daniel made sure she was stabbed 63 times so that it would be in the medical report, and I would be so stupid as to believe, oh my God, 63 Everett Street. Bill Ramsey went to Illinois. Bill Ramsey killed my mother and father. Bill Ramsey is the person to blame. But I tell you, not 1 second did that thought enter my mind. Not for a second. What did enter my mind when that number 63 came up is, Daniel, you premeditated this murder. And furthermore, you not only made sure Walter was the first one in the house, so he was the one that was looked at, not you, who was controlling the case, but by stabbing Mom 63 times, you were hoping that I would, just in my hysterical state, go after Bill Ramsey because his address was 63 Everett Street, and you wanted me to believe that he was sending me a personal message when it was my murdering brother who sent the personal message. You see how he was staging the scene for someone else to be blamed for what he did?
No, I'm not really picking up what you are laying down, but I do hear you blatantly accusing your own baby brother of being a cold-hearted killer. However, M'Linda is just getting warmed up on her dramatic rant as she continues by declaring,
Ladies and gentlemen, please listen to me. The murderer is telling his own police officers what happened, but he's blaming it on Dad. He can't say, I killed Mom and I killed Dad. He can't say that. But because he's the police chief, who is not going to believe a grieving police chief who just supposedly discovered his parents were found dead and Dad did it to Mom and then himself? Nobody questioned this police chief, who I will tell you, I will bet my life and soul on, is the murderer of my mother and my father.
Now, I'm not a gambler, but M'Linda sure does like to bet her life and soul pretty frequently. And with the amount of lies and misinformation she spreads, I certainly think her soul is in great peril. But getting back to her rant...
And you can't hear this whole story and not come to the same conclusion. If you go to JonBenet's, JonBenets, truecasehistory.net, to the far right of the menu bar is Shattered Shields, Babich Homicide, B-A-B-I-C-H Homicides, there's 2 of them. You will see the entire story of beginning to end of what I'm telling you now. And I name names as to who's helping him cover up the double homicide by him of our parents.
While I believe we are still waiting for this book to be released, she does babble on quite a bit about this case on her website. But getting back to this Real Cuff Radio interview, M'Linda Kula is now going to tell about her supposed secret assistance from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. But getting right into it, she states,
Then another FBI agent told me, you should know your enemy well and why he's so protected. People come up to me all the time telling me information that I need, but protecting their jobs. I get that. And he said, your brother is the police chief president of the entire Illinois Police Chief Association. Did you know that? I said, no, but that sure does explain a lot, doesn't it? No police chief in all of Illinois will touch this golden cow. He said, but I'll tell you what you should do. I'm getting guidance from the FBI, but they could lose their job and their pensions. So I don't ever give their names. I appreciate them. So he said, what you want to do is let your information be known, everything you've uncovered, put it in like a story, and send it to other members of the Police Chief Association, and they will want to drop him like a hot potato. So you take away that powerful support, and then it's more palatable to bring him down.
To bring him down. So that is apparently her whole goal, to bring down her own baby brother for this. But let's see what she did next.
Well, I did that, and guess what happened? He no longer was the police chief, but his buddy, who's protecting him, a family member of that person, Brian, took his place. So he still has protection. He's just not the police chief president of the Police Chief Association.
Well, that is a most interesting story, especially coming from a supposed FBI agent. But what I did was found the official Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police website, within which lists all the prior presidents, starting from its inception in 1941. And who to thunk it, but Daniel Babich is not on the list. But getting back to M'Linda Kula and her fanciful tales, we find ourselves back on the ED Armchair Detective channel, where M'Linda is once again telling her lies and misinformation about her supposed suspect Bill Ramsey and her own baby brother Daniel Babich, and ED cannot even get her name right. But fast forward 15 months to July of 2021, and ED is still not getting her name correct. However, he asks her the following question.
Is he still a police chief now? Is he still a police chief as we speak?
Yes. He was, when the murder took place, he was Alan, the Lyons, Lyons, Illinois police chief. He then, when I brought to everybody's attention in Lyons, Illinois, that they may have a murderer for a police chief, he then jumped from Lyons, Illinois to Stickney, Illinois, much smaller town, as their police chief. And someone else let them know, you might want to find a different police chief. Then he jumped to Westchester, Illinois police chief. He is currently Westchester, Illinois police chief.
Which is true, he has been since early 2020. But now that we know a whole lot more about her brother Daniel Babich than he would probably like her telling everyone publicly, M'Linda has one final update regarding her brother, which she spoke of on the YouTube channel we started this episode with, that being the Blasphemy Blue Line Wombat Specimen YouTube channel, where on January 22nd of this year, M'Linda Kula told her tale of her parents' tragic demise and her horrendous accusations against her brother. Then nearly 2 weeks later, on February 4th, while doing an hour-and-a-half special on meth labs and police corruption, who do you think would show up but none other than M'Linda Kula herself?
Surprise, surprise, surprise!
But not missing an opportunity to flap her jaw some more, she interjects.
Rodney, dear, you did bring up JonBenet and Daniel Babich.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I want to tell you what happened immediately after your show.
Okay.
Daniel Babich, police chief, Westchester police chief in Illinois, called my son, my firstborn son, and put the fear of God in him. To where my firstborn son is so afraid, and this is one son that it takes a lot to rattle his cage. It takes an awful lot because he's more like I am. And so he contacted my daughter, Diana, my son, and said, Mom needs to bring some things over. I don't want Mom to come over. I don't want Dad to come over. Please drop off the things for Mom and Dad. And I'm not going over there either to help Dad build this fence to keep the shepherds on one side of the property. So I went over there. I'm mother. I'm in charge. My children are not in charge. I don't care if they're adults or not. I showed up at the front door, and he's in his mid-40s. He's worked a lot of really tough jobs, so this is not someone you can easily intimidate. Never in my entire life have I seen fear in my son, in his eyes, because he opened the door, he stepped down to make sure I didn't step in, so he could say, my mom's not in the house. My dad's no longer allowed in the house. Whatever Police Chief Daniel Babich said to my son put fear, absolute fear, into him, to where right now he feels to keep his family in their cocoon over there, and to make sure Tom and I, the grandparents, don't go anywhere near our son, his wife, those children, which are our grandchildren. And I don't know what he would have said to him to put that fear in him, but Daniel's now attacking my children, and I think, and my grandchildren, separating them from us. You know the old saying, separate, divide, and conquer?
Yes.
I believe that's his tactic now, and I believe the only reason why he's pulling that hard punch is because Daniel is afraid that the veterans, all of your listening audience, now know the truth, and he knows how unpredictable and how courageous and self-reliant veterans are. So because of Daniel's fear that now we have righteous help who is well-trained and not going to listen to his lies and not put up with his nonsense, I think that scared him on such a level, poop runs downhill, and he made a call to my son, and I'm trying to find out from my son, what fear tactic did Daniel use? What fear tactic?
Right.
The only thing I can think of, as you have said, and I've seen it already since the broadcast, that thin blue line crosses states.
Yes.
We were in a Home Depot, and a sergeant in that town stood right next to me and was trying to be aggressive, chuckle, with my husband and myself. And I just looked at him, I gave him my back, and I dismissed him because he's trying to get in my personal space. Not even my husband gets in my personal space when I don't want him to. So I looked at my husband, I snapped at my husband. I said, we're going to do this job right, and if we don't do this job right, we're going to hire contractors because we don't do anything half for rent in my family. And he said, yes, you're right. And I turned around and looked right at that person that was standing there doing his best to intimidate me and my husband while he's wearing his little sergeant uniform. And I just gave him the mother stare. So he realized it wasn't working. For whatever reason, he was there to try and intimidate us. At the same time, my son, Michael, is receiving this phone call from his Uncle Danny. The only thing I can think of is I know what Daniel did to one of the witnesses in Illinois, my mom's longtime friend, Kay Mistandria. He turned around and told her, if you do not stay out of this double murder situation, Kay Mistandria, if you tell anybody that you know I had a key to the house, I'll make sure your son ends up in jail for whatever charges I can think of. Dope could be thrown in his vehicle. He could be said to have participated in some other criminal activity. He said, but I will make sure your son gets arrested. And her son, this particular one, Michael, he's as good as gold, devoted to his mother, and she has health issues, so he's always there taking care of her, looking out for her, like a prize champion son. And he started becoming afraid because he kept getting pulled over for fictitious charges. So Daniel made good on his threat to this elderly woman about taking the fact that she was telling the truth. You had a key to that house. Don't say you didn't, because I know you did. And then Danny and his officers started attacking her son. So I believe that might have been what happened. Yeah, that just happened.
But in case you missed it, she just said,
That just happened.
And this was just 2 weeks after her January 22nd appearance, talking all kinds of smack about her baby brother. And that was a very active appearance, which also inspired the release of this other short video of mine. This lady has been falsely accusing a man named William Rohn for over 20 years. Listen to what she just recently said.
Bill and David Strom, his friend and general contractor, are aggressively attacking me and telling me that they're going to take my home and all my assets and leave me penniless, and I'll be living in the street with myself, my dogs, and my kids for what my husband has earned his entire life, because they're scared. They're absolutely wrong. I've been in this fight for too long. I have a horse in this race, and for all time, I will fight until I can fight no longer, and that's only going to happen because I'm in heaven. So you take my freaking house, and you take my cars, and you take our savings, but you're still not going to get away with this, because I'm not going to stop fighting. And the fact that those people who are signing documents to help you do this, they will be proven to be nothing more than accomplices. So if you think I'm someone you want to play with,
I do.
Bring it on.
Oh, it's on like Donkey Kong. Till the break of dawn, let's get it on. But there was an additional clip of great importance that I was not able to incorporate, in which she stated,
And the same threat, very real threat. Daniel Babich has promised to do the same thing.
However, I was able to allude to it in the following shorts video displaying how she treats her own family.
There's family members that, for whatever reason, don't want to believe that this police chief would not do that to his mother and father. This police chief is a good kid and a good relative, blah, blah, blah. Sing me a river, cry me a river. You're absolutely wrong. There's people that don't want to face the fact that Daniel Babich did this. Oh, he's a devoted husband. No, he's not. So, if my reporting information that is supposed to and will eventually lead to justice offends some people, that's your problem, not mine. I don't mean to hurt anyone, family members, especially ones that I feel are good souls, but I will get justice for my mother and father in spite of their cooperation or their need to think that this police chief is a saint and did none of this.
Honey, we're the big door bride. We're gonna spite our noses right off of our faces.
Spiting her nose right off her face is exactly what she is doing, as we conclude this episode focusing on M'Linda's defamatory sibling rivalry. But make sure to tune in to next week's episode, where we will focus on M'Linda exploiting her own sister and nephew's tragedies, apparently against her own niece's wishes. Followed the next week by an episode discussing M'Linda Kula's latest March 19th True Murder podcast debacle, where she spreads even more lies and misinformation. And hopefully that will be the end of my M'Linda Kula coverage for a little while, at least until M'Linda rears her ugly head again, and we can get back to what is most important, exposing the truths about this case and hopefully finally finding justice for this precious angel. So I thank you for tuning in to JonBenet's Web Truths. And please stick around for more exciting episodes from the Unsolved Mystery YouTube channel. Now for more M'Linda Kula shenanigans, click on the playlist on the upper left. And for more informative episodes on the JonBenet Ramsey case and investigation, click on the logo on the right. But thanks again, and we'll catch you on the next one.